Hey everyone, what's up? Luke here. How often does it happen to you when you are 4-betting pre-flop that your opponent doesn't have a folding range facing a 4-bet? At low stakes PLO, this is happening extremely often. A couple of episodes ago, we looked into how to adjust our 3-bet strategy when we know that your opponent doesn't fold versus 3-bet. Well, today we're going to do something very similar, but this time we're going to look into our 4-bet strategy and how to adjust when you know that your opponent doesn't fold facing a 4-bet. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Crushing Small Stakes PLO course. Today we're going to look specifically at the button versus small blind scenario. So we open raise at the button, the small blind 3-bets us, the action folds to us, and we now have to decide whether to fold, call or raise, in other words 4-bet. In a GTO setting, we are folding around 22.7% of the time, calling 69.1%, and 4-betting 8.2%. However, how should we adjust our 4-bet strategy, which is the topic of today, when you know that your opponent doesn't fold facing this 4-bet? We're going to look at the button versus small blind scenario as mentioned, and here we can see the first overview of our strategy. In the first column, you can see all the hand categories going from aces to kings to the rundowns at the bottom. In the second column here, we see the GTO frequencies attached to this. For example, the first one, we can see in a GTO setting, aces are a 100% 4-bet. On the other hand, kings, as you can see, are only a 3% 4-bet in a GTO setting. Queens 7.6, jacks and 10 3.5, low pairs only 0.6% of the time, unpaired double suited rundowns 17.1%, and unpaired single suited or rainbow ones only 0.1% of the time. However, how can we adjust this strategy when we know that your opponent never folds facing a 4-bet? This is what we can see in the third column, the no fold versus 4-bet column. We can see aces now dropping from 100% to 96.7%, which is a less percentage of minus 3.3% here. We can see that kings suddenly increase in 4-bet frequency from 3% going to 17.2%. Queens dropping also from 7.6 to 1.9. Jacks and 10s dropping from 3.5 to 0.6. Low pairs are never getting 4-bet anymore. Unpaired double suited rundowns, also a very big drop here from 17.1 to 2.1% only. And you can see that with unpaired single suited and rainbow rundowns, we're never 4-betting anymore. The bottom row, you can see that tells range, says that in a GTO setting, we are 4-betting 8.2%, but now we are suddenly 4-betting only 5.9%. You can see pretty big differences here. And the question is, what are these differences and how to adjust correctly? Let's dive deeper into this specific topic and these outcomes that we see here. First, we're going to look into aces. Aces in a GTO setting, 4-betting 100% of the time. And if you know your opponent is never folding versus a 4-bet, we're dropping to 96.7. I mean, it's extremely low, and simplifying this to a pure 4-bet is totally fine. However, I did think it was helpful to mention it and to show, like, for example, a hand like ace 9 4 rainbow or ace 6 deuce rainbow are hands that we could decide now to call instead of 4-betting. And the reasons is here that these hands do benefit from fold equity pre-flop, as these don't play too greatly. And 4-betting pre-flop and getting some folds is totally fine with these hands. However, simplifying this to a pure 4-bet, I would do that, and I wouldn't pay too much attention to this specific situation. But I think it's worth mentioning it. Let's look into kings. I mean, this is one of the most interesting outcomes here that we see, and something that we can have some clear takeaways on. In a GTO setting, 3% only 4-betting. In a no fold versus 4-bet setting, 17.2%, so a massive increase. Additional 4-bets that we now see is that single-suited kings that have an ace are almost a pure 4-bet, hands like ace, king 8 single-suited, for example. But also double-suited kings, king 8 7 double-suited without the ace. King, king, queen, jack double suited. Also not having an ace and not blocking 4-betting ranges. These are also great candidates now to add into your 4-betting range. We can see that the 4-bet frequency increases significantly here. There is much more value here for betting kings pre-flop, because now we know that your opponents are never folding versus 4-bet. So imagine your opponent is not folding the 9s, the 10s, the jacks, the queens that he is 3-betting pre-flop and now is never folding versus a 4-bet. Also, some of the rundowns, double-suited or single-suited ones, are never being folded anymore, which increases the EV of 4-betting this specific combo with a very high frequency, as you can see here. So from 3%, we increase to 17.2. Add almost any ace-king-king combination, 83% of the time we're now 4-betting ace-king-king. Only the ones with a wheel card like ace-king-king deuce, ace-king-king 3, ace-king-king 4, rainbow, and single-suited ones. Like those are the combinations that we occasionally like to call still, but for the rest, we're always 4-betting these combinations. King, 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 7 double-suited up until king, king, queen, queen double-suited. That entire range of double-suited kings that are strongly connected without a gap with the 2 low side cards or maybe one gap. Those are all totally fine to start 4-betting now. Let's look at queens, because here we also see a massive change, but this time the frequency is dropping from 7.6% to 1.9. Stop 4-betting in call hands like ace, queen, queen, 5 single suited with unsuited to the ace, or ace, queen, queen, jack single suited, unsuited to the ace. But also a hand like ace, queen, queen, deuce double suited is not a 4-bet anymore. Now the first 2 examples here specifically are sort of our 4-bet semi-bluffing range here, because these hands, they 4-bet and they benefit a lot from pushing out kings pre-flop. But if your opponent is not folding anymore, specifically these kings, the EV of 4-betting here drops significantly, and therefore now these hands don't 4-bet anymore and go for a call. So with queens, we are adjusting to 4-betting only the very best ones now and don't have really that 4-bet bluffing range anymore with some of the unsuited ace, queen, queen hands that we see here on the left side. We are now 4-betting ace, queen, queen, 8 double suited or better. And we are 4-betting queen, queen, 9, 8 double suited up until queen, queen, jack, jack double suited. So only the very best ones and connected double suited queens are capable of 4-betting here for value. There's no 4-bet bluffing anymore. Just call the ones that don't benefit from fold equity anymore, because there is no fold equity anymore. Or don't 4-bet the hands that benefit, don't 4-bet the queens that benefit from fold equity anymore pre-flop, because there isn't any fold equity. So just call them as those and only 4-bet the very strongest ones here. Let's look into jacks and 10s. I mean, we're dropping to almost no 4-bet anymore from 3.5 to 0.6. Hands like ace, jack, jack, 5 double suited were a clear 4-bet in a GTO setting with the capability of folding out kings, for example, but also queens. And we still have quite a good hand, of course. But also hands like ace, jack, jack, 8, single suited, unsuited to the ace. Ace, king, jack, jack, rainbow. I mean, the hand just doesn't play too greatly as a call and would benefit from fold equity pre-flop. In a GTO setting, it's a clear 4-bet, but here we now decide to go for a call. Also ace, 10, and 7 double suited, like these hands, they all benefit a lot from fold at equity pre-flop. But if that is not occurring anymore, and if that is not happening, then we should stop 4-betting and only call. Again, here very similar to queens. 4-bet only the very best double suited ones now. With jacks, ace, jack, jack, 10 plus double suited is a good candidate. They are strong enough and there is value in 4-betting. Jack, jack, 10, jack, jack, 10, 9 double suited, as well as jack, jack, 10, 10 double suited. Like those hands are strong enough to go for a 4-bet. There's no 4-bet bluffing anymore with unsuited ace, jack, jack combinations here. As you can see here, the ace, jack, jack, 8, for example. Don't do that anymore, just call. And simplify to not 4-betting any 10s anymore pre-flop is totally fine here. Low pairs, very interesting. Maybe, probably none of you are 4-betting these combinations anyway at the moment, but I thought it's helpful to show you what's happening here in a GTO setting. We do have a 4-betting range here with some of these combinations. Hands like ace 7-7-6 double suited or ace 10-8-8 double suited are 4-bet pre-flop in a G10. And the reason is fold equity. We can push out higher pairs. We can make them fold. But if that is not optional anymore, we should just call. Don't ever 4-bet these anymore. Low value because of there's low fold equity. What I do want to say is that it is interesting for all of you to also learn more about the 4-bet strategy in a GTO setting, but you can see that some hands like these are actually 4-bet in a GTO setting. And if you play against opponents who do understand the game a little bit better and who do have a reasonable fold frequency here, like some of these hands might be optional for you to add in there, but you do then have to know which are these. And these are, for example, one of them. Okay, unpaired double suited ones. I mean, this is, beside the kings, in my opinion, probably the most interesting one. We are dropping enormously here from 17.1% to 2.1%. This is one of those categories that is best utilized within our sort of 4-bet bluffing range. These hands flop smoothly, have equity or decent equity against almost any range, and can stack off on many flops. But if we don't have fold equity here anymore pre-flop, you can see that the value of 4-betting drops significantly. Stop 4-betting and call ace king 8-7 double suited, for example. Ace 10-5-8 double suited, like these sort of trashy double suited disconnected hands that benefit a lot from fold equity. Jack 10-8-6, like we have like 2 or 3 gaps in there, like just call them now, as well as 10-9-5-7 double suited here. All these hands, they don't really benefit anymore from 4-betting. We just want to call, play position, and play a 3-bet pot instead of a 4-bet pot. Adjustments here with our 4-bet strategy for unpaired double suited hands. Focus on only the very best ace-x hands, like ace queen jack 10 double suited up until ace 10-9-8 double suited are totally fine 4-bet still. They are strong enough and they can continue against the 5-bet. And these hands should definitely be 4-bet, but the weaker ones and the more disconnected ones, you should definitely stop 4-betting those. Only a very few selective non-ace-x hands here are 4-betting. So if you have a double suited rundown without an ace blocker, then focus on only the very best ones with like 1 gap or no gap, like 10-9-7-6 double suited up until queen 10-9-8 double suited. Like these hands are fine 4-bets, but don't 4-bet these trashy hands with like 3, 4, 5 gaps in there. Just stop doing that and play a call strategy there. So I think big takeaways here, and we should be more careful with our 4-bet bluffing range here for sure. Okay, we've looked into the most important categories here, and the final notes for this episode are as follows. We should tighten up our 4-bet range when our opponent has a no-fold strategy versus 4-bets. Kings are 4-bet more often if he has more value now. As you can see, the frequency of kings increases significantly. Other pairs beside the kings are 4-bet way less often because they benefit so much from fold equity. Unpaired double-suited hands only get 4-bet with the very best combinations here, as we just saw in the last slide. And if we face a 5-bet in this scenario, make sure to fold ace-king-king single-suited, which was a clear outcome by the solver. Your opponent's 5-betting range mainly consists of aces now, and we don't want to play ace-king-king single-suited against that 5-bet, so you can just fold them and call the rest of the hands. Okay, that sums up what we wanted to discuss. Remember, like many players playing low stakes don't ever fold versus 4-bet, so here you have the outcomes for that strategy. Of course, there are some people that have somewhat of a folding range, which is in between this outcome and the GTO outcome. We have some players that have a reasonable folding freeze closer to GTO, and there you know what hands you can add into your bluffing range if you study the 4-bet strategy in the GTO setting more. And you always have to think a little bit critically about this situation when it comes up. Like when you have these type of hands, does your opponent sometimes fold or does he never fold? Like what type of player is he? And if he just never folds, you sometimes know that of certain players, then here are the strategies that you can use in that situation. Okay, if you have any questions, as usual, make sure to use the comment section. Let me know in Discord or on here what you like about the video. And also, if you would like to see different format situations as well, for example, in an out of position scenario, cutoff versus button, how should we adjust there? Let me know, and we can always look into that in a future episode. Anyway, this was Luke for the PLO Mastermind. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I would like to see you next week back in another episode of the Crushing Small Stakes PLO course. Take care, and good luck at the tables.